Hello everyone, welcome back. We are here with a review of GrimGrimoire Once More. Now, GrimGrimoire originally came out on the PlayStation 2 back in the day, which was also published by NIS. But this game recently got a redone version with some quality of life improvements over that PS2 game. And just like every other Vanillaware game that I've played, which is Dragon's Crown, Muramasa the Demon Blade, and Odinsphere Liefderseer. Hopefully I pronounced that right. Presentation is just flat out amazing. Art is fantastic. Voice acting, I actually feel, is very well done, surprisingly, for these games. And the music is just top-notch. But one thing that's been different with the Vanillaware games that at least I've experienced is that they all don't play the same. They all play kind of differently from each other, and GrimGrimoire is not exactly what I expected it to be. It's not an adventure game like Odinsphere, and it's not a brawler like Dragon's Crown. This is a real-time strategy game, but it still plays on a 2D plane, and that is something I wasn't expecting at this, because I never played the game back in the day when it came out on the PlayStation 2. This is my first time actually experiencing it, and it was a very pleasant surprise, because I haven't played an RTS game in a long time. I think the last one I remember sitting down and actually trying for just a little bit was the Command & Conquer remasters that came out, but the one I actually put a lot of time into back then was Company of Heroes and Dawn of War 2 from Relic, which, if you haven't played either of those games or even the Command & Conquer remaster, you should take a look at those. But the RTS genre doesn't seem to be as popular as it used to be back then, but it seems to be getting a bit of a resurgence. You're still seeing games that still play out like that. You still have Total War games from Creative Assembly, which, big props to them. I know Age of Empires 4 is also another. That was a surprise that they made a new Age of Empires, which I still want to get my hands on with it. But the fact that GrimGrimoire plays like an RTS, in a sense, is a pleasant surprise and a nice change from some of the other games I have been playing. And if you don't know how the RTS works, at least for this, you have a very basic form of base building where you have these grimoires, you summon them, and you can level them up, and they can give you different characters or units to summon, but also different abilities as well. So, and you have units, you build your units with your resource, which is mana, and you send them out on this tall tower on a 2D plane, and attack the enemy. Now, RTS games are still fun, I find. I don't have the best strategies, honestly, when it comes to some of this stuff, but I found this actually played pretty well, and it worked not too badly for a controller. So it's basically use the left stick to move your cursor, and then the right stick to move the camera. You have like your use button, and then you have your select button. You can select individual units with, say, like the D-pad, or select all of the same type of unit by pressing, say, up on it, or down selects everything that you see on the screen. So in terms of control, it's actually not too bad. I did get confused a couple of times with some of the button prompts, but normally those were easy to fix my minor mistakes and then get back to actually inputting my tactics and stuff. One new quality of life feature that's included in here is the ability to fast forward during combat. Now, apparently you couldn't do this in the original version, so the fact that you can do it here is just pressing R2, for example, on the PlayStation controller for it, and it speeds things up. But as soon as you move your cursor or you do anything else, and then it will stop it, and then you have to restart it again. But I kind of wish it would do that, but maybe for balance reasons or just for control purposes, they just shut that off for that. I thought it was a little bit odd, but it's not much of a deal breaker when it comes to this stuff. Gameplay-wise, like I said, it's a surprise. I actually had some fun with this, and there's also more strategy as well outside of the field, because outside of combat, you actually earn coins during your missions, and you can actually earn bonus coins as well, completing specific objectives. And you use these coins to enhance your grimoires. They could be things like, say, increase your gather rate of mana, or increase the health of one of these units. Or it can even go further where increase the maximum amount of, units you can have on the screen, or how much mana you start with. So there is some strategy when using the coins. The one nice thing actually when it comes with the coins and the upgrades is that when you do an upgrade, you're not locked into it. You can refund those coins and you can put them somewhere else. So I do like how there is another layer of options and strategies when it comes to that. So if you're doing a mission and you kind of get stuck, but you want to use a specific grimoire, you can take points out of one and then put it into another, and so on and so forth. Now, something to keep in mind is that some abilities are locked to difficulty levels. So on normal you get access, but on default you get access to quite a bit. But if you want to use some of the stuff that's on easy or on hard, you have to be on those difficulties in order to get access to that stuff. And you do have quite a few options when it comes to your grimoires. I actually like the variety of units, and each unit has its own purpose and good counters to it. So in terms of like strategies in this game, I feel like it's very well done. It made me think you can't just rely on like one tactic all the time. Like you can't just use a dragon all the time or a chimera all the time. No, you kind of need to mix things up a bit. I imagine you could probably get away with this on easy difficulty, but if you're playing it on hard, yeah, you're gonna need to think a little more outside of the box. And thankfully the missions aren't just the typical, like, destroy the enemy runes. Like, that's pretty much what majority of them are, but you have other things. The only other kind of variety of stuff is you have to hold out for an X amount of time or something. So there is that. But the game is good at teaching you these mechanics as well. So like the first part of it is just, here's how things work, here's what you should know, and now let loose. When it comes to your objectives though, in the maps, like it lists your main objective and then your bonus objectives that you can use to get the extra coins. And the game even gives you a tip option where it's like, hey, this is what's going to be happening, maybe you should try this, or think of this as an idea. And also, before you start the mission, you can also go back into the skill tree and re-evaluate where you want your upgrades to go as well. So, I do like this. It's an interesting style of gameplay for an RTS game. And the game itself is not too long. I didn't feel like it overstayed its welcome either. You can probably finish this thing in about 10 hours if you're just focusing on the main story stuff, which I'll talk about the story in a minute. But if you want to do more, there are trials available. As you progress through the campaign, you'll unlock these trials at the bottom of the screen. There's like 25, I believe, total, and you can also earn coins from that you can use to spend on upgrades. So there is a fair amount of replayability when it comes to these, and you can finish each of the missions on easy, normal, and hard for that. And you also get unlocks for artwork, which again, gorgeous art in this game. But the story itself is actually very intriguing, and that's the thing that kept me going through this game. In the story, you play as a witch named Lilith Blanche, and she's just arrived at this tower of magic to learn how to use magic effectively. However, things go awry, and basically, magic gets out of control, evil spirits get revealed, demons loose. I'm not trying to spoil too much of the story here for you, because I thought it was actually intriguing, because the one thing I can talk about this though, because you'll see it within the first period of time, is that the game's story resets after the 5th day. So when you start, you go through 5 days, and then it just resets back. But the thing is, Lilith remembers everything that's happened. And then she's using that knowledge to try and stop this from happening again. But you do one thing, obviously it has an effect, and things don't go always to plan. So then after the 5th day, it resets back. and then it starts again. So the story itself I actually thought was really cool. It kept things interesting and twists and turns throughout. And the voice acting kind of helps that experience too, I find. The thing with all Vanillaware games is that the voice acting, I feel, is just, it fits the tone. Especially with that English dub. I wonder who they use for that stuff. I'd like to know. But no, the story is well done, and you can even replay some of those cutscenes, and even replay some of those missions. Like I said, you can play them on easy, normal, and hard, but you can also replay those sequences if you just want to go back and watch those too. So story-wise, I thought it was actually pretty adequate. Gameplay-wise, I think it's great. Visuals, presentation, so the graphics, and mostly the art, and the music is just top-notch. This is one thing I love with Vanillaware games, especially going to OnceMore and even Dragon's Crown. If you've seen the art for Dragon's Crown, you know what I'm talking about when it comes to this stuff. But yeah, no, all their art's top-notch. It looks great. It animates well. And it really adds to the sense of like the fantasy vibe that they were going for here. The music is just some of the best I've heard from them. It fits the tone. It feels very magical. And when it's setting its tone, like especially with its darker pieces, or some of the darker pieces with it, it works well. And then, like I said, the voice acting is just well done. I believe you can play this in Japanese as well. I didn't get a chance to test that here, but that I like is a nice touch that you can switch between English and Japanese. Now, for review purposes, I played this on PlayStation 5, and I had no problems with performance or anything whatsoever. It looks great, it runs fine, it loads fast. You're gonna have a good time with this. This game's also available on the PlayStation 4 and the Switch as well, so I can't speak to those versions, but it's nice to see that those games are going to be out on those platforms. And if 13 Sentinels, which is another game I have to play by the way, on Switch is any indication to go off of, I think GrimGrimoire is going to be perfectly fine for this. Overall, I liked this game. It was a very pleasant surprise. It wasn't what I was expecting it to be, because again, playing other games from Vanillaware, like I said, their Muramasa, Odin Sphere, Dragon's Crown, this doesn't play anything like them. And that's kind of nice, but it still keeps their signature art style and their signature music. The stories are also pretty good. I enjoyed this. It kept me intrigued until the end. And the gameplay, like I said, it's fun. If you're not into RTS games, like, I would still at least consider this a look. If you're having a tough time with it, just play it on the easy difficulty, because you want to see the story through, for sure. I would say pick it up. I think you will have fun with it. I'd be curious to know what your thoughts are. Please let me know when you get your hands on it, but hit out of the park. This is another hit out of the park for Vanillaware, and I would hope that we could see another game like this in the future, because I'm always excited for their games, and I always would want to see what they do next. With that, I gotta give a big shout out and thank you again to NIS for providing me a copy of this game. Thank you so much for it. I really appreciate it. And I hope all of you enjoyed this video. Have you played this game before on the PlayStation 2? Or is this going to be your first time experiencing it like I did? What did you think of GrimGrimoire when you get your hands on it? Let me know. Please leave your feedback in the comments below. Also, don't forget to like this video. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. Your support and feedback means a lot. Thank you again for watching this, and until next time, stay safe, and I will see you in the next one.